Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. Today we are going to be doing an artist Q&A to celebrate my 1 year on YouTube. At this point it's been a little bit over a year. I celebrated 1 year in August and this video has taken a little extra time to get to you, but I am super excited nonetheless. In the last video that I did, I asked for your questions as well as putting an ask out on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. So today I'm excited to be answering all of those. But before we start with the video, let me go ahead and let you know what you're all watching in this video kind of in the background, and that is a time-lapse painting of a mountain lion. Now, over on my Patreon, I have monthly community challenges for all of my patrons to participate in, and this month's theme was big cats. Now, technically a mountain lion is a member of the small cat family, however, I did want to represent them here as they are physically a large animal, and I had never painted one before, so I was really excited to go ahead and do that. In addition to just doing the painting as a contribution to the challenge, I also made this into my $10 real-time tutorial for the month, and so I have two real-time tutorials that go up on my Patreon every month, and one is at the $5 tier and a second one is uploaded at the $10 tier. And if you would like to see this full version, I think it ended up being about 2.5 hours long of real time, me chatting through and showing you my process, you can head on over to my Patreon. But if you just want to go ahead and catch a glimpse of this painting that I am actually quite proud of, I wanted to go ahead and share it here on YouTube. Sometimes when you're going through your painting process, and especially when I'm recording for a video, and more so when I'm doing the real-time tutorials and talking all the way through it, I can get a little bit wrapped up in what I'm doing and recording and making sure that I'm doing all the steps properly, but then it really takes me a moment to step back and take a look at a painting to realize what I've accomplished. And with this one, I really felt that sense of pride once I had finished it. And if you like this painting, you can also find it in my Etsy shop, both in the sizes of 5x7 and 8x10, alongside a lot of other new stickers, prints, and even some little mini original paintings. All of those go to help directly support me and the channel and let me keep doing what I'm doing, so thank you in advance, and you guys have all been absolutely fantastic. Before I get into really specific questions, I did want to go ahead and answer some general questions that I do get asked a lot here on the channel across the different comments and videos. The first question is, what watercolor paints should I start out with? And that one is a loaded question that is going to have a different answer based on your budget and based on what you have available around you, or as well as whoever is answering that question for you. Now, the most common set that people recommend that you start off with is the Winsor & Newton Cotman sets, but if you've watched my videos, you probably have gathered that I am not a huge fan of this line of paint. Now, the set that I got to start with the Winsor & Newtons was the Cotman Pocket Plus set, and it's a set of 12. I did a review here on the channel. I'll put a link up in the cards for you to be able to find that easily, and I used this for some time. It's okay, but the paints in this line are really hard to re-wet, and they're also not very pigmented. So I think for an artist starting off, especially the rewettability aspect of them is not ideal for someone just starting off, and you also may get discouraged from not being able to mix really vibrant colors if that is your what you're going for, because this set just doesn't lend itself to that very well. Instead of the Cotmans, I would recommend the Van Gogh. This is a line of paint that I actually found when I was over in Budapest last year on vacation, and they are an artist line of paint. They're comparable in price to Cotmans, but they are super vibrant, and they are very easy to re-wet. The downside to them is that they are a little bit less transparent. They're more on the opaque side, so you would have to keep that in mind, but I still think that they're a better investment overall to get started with. They're not as commonly found here in the United States. I've never seen one in a store, but they are available online on Amazon and all of your major art retail stores. I'll put links in the description below if you would like to go ahead and find the set that I'm talking about. Another question I get asked all the time is, what is the best paper to use? And a couple months ago I did a huge ultimate watercolor video. I could not possibly cover all the information I covered in that two-part video, so I'll go ahead and put a link to the first video in the iCards. You can follow that video to the second part of that review as well. But typically I use the Arches or Arches, a 140-pound cold press for my most day-to-day use, although there were some in that review that I found that I liked more than Arches, but I haven't been able to find them regularly available in my area. My recommendation for a student grade paper is going to be to stick with the Canson XL, only because it is so widely available, at least here in the United States. It's very affordable, and it definitely it is just easily, readily available on hand. It is a little bit more difficult to use, so people who are just starting off might have trouble with water control, and again, this can be a discouraging factor for new artists, so I would recommend checking out those other videos to see kind of how they compare with other papers. The next question that I have is, can you make more color spotlight videos? The short answer is I would absolutely love to. The longer answer is that they take a lot of time to produce, to plan, and to create, as well as a lot of the requests that I've been getting are for colors that I don't have in my collection, so I'm not able to do a wide comparison across different brands if I don't physically have them in my possession. So it's actually been, since the very inception of my Patreon, it has been a stretch goal. So once we reach $500 a month on Patreon, which we are well over halfway there, you guys have been awesome with that. Once we reach that stretch goal on my Patreon, I will be rebooting the color spotlight videos for at least 8 episodes, possibly 10, only because I originally said 8, the Patreon says 8, but when I was planning out colors, there were a lot of colors that I wanted to get my hands on and just really dive into. So if you'd like to go ahead and support that, you can go over to Patreon, just pledge $1 or whatever you can or would like to help get that going. In the meantime, if you haven't seen my last video with the collaboration with Sade from Sadie Saves the Day, if you head on over to her channel, we swapped videos and I did a color spotlight on yellow ochre, so that hopefully that can hold you over in the meantime, and I look forward to rebooting that series as soon as we hit that stretch goal. Alright, now we're going to move on to our specific questions across my social media platforms, and real quick, I just wanted to let you know that I promise I am trying to slow down when I'm recording my audio. I'm always just trying to get through as much information as I can nice and quickly, but I know some of you don't like that and would like me to slow down. I'm trying to be conscious of that, but if I'm ever talking too quickly for you in a video, there is a gear in the right hand corner of the video that will let you slow me down, and you can slow down any video on YouTube if it's going too quickly for you. So there's always that option, but I promise I'm working on it. I'll try. The first question is from Annika Nia on Instagram, who says, do you prefer pans or tubes? And what was the first color you completely used up? For her, it was a tube of Burnt Sienna by Van Gogh. First off, between tubes and pans, I prefer tubes because you can have the flexibility of making them into pans if you'd like to. So if I'm out there purchasing anything from an art website or my local stores, it's usually a tube unless I'm buying a predetermined pan set. Usually in that case it's for a review here on the channel. I do have a lot of pans in my possession. I have a lot of metal tins here that I either use for travel that I've set up on my own, and or they contain samples that viewers and patrons have sent me, and so I have metal tins so I can make sure that they're all held in a place and not moving around. That being said, my absolute favorite palettes in terms of usability and just the way that they handle are my ceramic studio palette that I set up a couple months ago that I got from Alan Davis. Thank you so much again, I love it. And that palette is a huge open air kind of palette that doesn't have pans in it. And then I also, in terms of a smaller option, more affordable option, I love the Magello Fusion palettes. They're either blue or pink are the colors that I've seen them in. They're 18 wells, and those are, you pour the tubes directly into the palette. So I like tubes if I'm on my own, but I do have plenty of pans as well. What was the first color that I completely used up? I have to agree, I think it was probably a tube of Burnt Sienna by Daniel Smith. If not, it was the Ultramarine, because I used them a lot when I first started painting to mix gray. So the two of those colors I used to mix all my grays and blacks. So in addition to using them for their colors individually, like Ultramarine and Burnt Sienna in mixtures, I also use them for my black mixture. So those got used up first, I think. A Voltink from YouTube asks, brushes and water control, ... Why does my size 6 round Majestic give me more issues than my Davinci round? And unfortunately, the two brushes that you mentioned I have not used before, so I can't give you any specific feedback on those two particular brushes. I can say, again, I'll put a card up in the corner for you to find the video. I have a brush kind of, I don't know, comparison video, kind of like the watercolor paper one, but a little bit less detailed, and where I just kind of go through different types of brushes. Busy Bee Silly Me on Instagram asks, is there anything you wish you could go back in time and tell yourself from when you were first getting started with watercolor, or YouTube for that matter? This is kind of a difficult question to answer because there's so many things that I wish I knew when I first started, but I think if I had to pick one thing, it would kind of be that generic answer that a lot of artists give, and that is that I wish I wasn't as afraid to make mistakes. And if that means that you need to use less expensive materials to do that so you feel comfortable making mistakes, then I would absolutely recommend doing that. I started off, the first ever set of watercolors that I had aside from like a Crayola or a Prang was the Reeves set of 18 colors, I believe. And I bought the Mission Fusion palette that I mentioned before and put all my paints in there, and when they dried chalky, and I used them for a little bit, but I really didn't enjoy them. I knew from watching reviews online and reading blogs that that wasn't the type of quality of paint that I would eventually want to work with being an artist, so I got pretty impatient with it and I jumped straight to Daniel Smith. Like, I mean, not straight, I did tons and tons of research, but Daniel Smith was the first professional line of paint that I owned, and I think going from Reeves to Daniel Smith was so extreme, I guess, that all the paints after Daniel Smith have had very high standards to be held to. So I still do like working with other brands as well, but I often wonder if I would have a different favorite like M. Graham or Sennelier or Schmincke if I had started with those before Daniel Smith, and I guess I'll never really know the answer to that. As for YouTube, I don't think that I have anything that I would change or tell myself from before, other than just to give myself a little bit of extra confidence with it. I was pretty timid starting off, but I do think that I found the scheduling aspect of YouTube pretty quickly, and that I would recommend to other artists who want to have channels, is that regularity for uploads is a big deal. So making sure you have a schedule, not only for your viewers, but for yourself to stick to and to stay on track. I think that that's really valuable. Karen Rebecca on Instagram asked 3 questions. I'm going to break them down so they're easier to digest. But the first one is, what was the most useful tip or piece of advice that you have received that has helped you to improve your paintings? This one is really difficult to answer because there's so much that goes into everything. I don't know that I could tell you one instance of a tip or piece of advice that has really helped me improve my paintings, but rather to utilize the community. YouTube in general has been probably the most beneficial thing for me, and I know that that's cheating because it's a lot of different videos on YouTube, but YouTube itself as a resource has been incredibly powerful on my watercolor journey. Before I started doing videos myself, I watch so many different videos and tutorials and setup videos and palettes and colors and everything to help me have a better foundation and an understanding for what I was getting myself into. Her second question is, what areas do you think I still need to improve in? And without a doubt, the first gut answer that I have are my drawing skills. Now, I've been drawing since I could hold a pencil. I've always loved drawing, but I didn't have access to a lot of art classes growing up. And so I never really, I had one class in high school, and I think I had one class in college, but I never had like a complete fundamental drawing class where it was like an intensive course where I was going through all the motions. So when I moved on to other mediums like acrylic and then later watercolor, and watercolor in particular, it's incredibly difficult that you have good drawing skills, because in acrylic you're painting over your outline really quickly, and then you're using the colors and shapes to define your painting. So while proportions are important, they're not as important as in a transparent medium like watercolor, where if you don't have that drawing down exactly the way you want it, it's going to be incredibly difficult for you to build up the colors over it in an accurate way. I hope I explained that okay. So drawing is by far the thing that I think I need most improvement in, specifically in figure drawing and in portraits. I have always stayed away from doing people because they scare the crap out of me in terms of being able to draw them. People and hands, and just I'm not as comfortable with them as I am with animals. So I definitely would like to explore that area more. The question she writes is, what do you think is the most valuable thing a new watercolor painter should know or have or try? And this is kind of going to go back to Busy Bee Silly Me's question, in that as far as trying goes, just try, just do it and practice and experiment. Get yourself some cheap Canson XL paper, get yourself some Reeves or some Prings, and don't be afraid to take risks and see what happens when you do different things or try different techniques. If we're talking about simply what is the most financially valuable thing that a beginner can start with, is if you are going to start upgrading your supplies, I absolutely full-heartedly believe that you should put your money into your paper before anything else. I talk about this in the watercolor paper tutorial, and it just affects your paintings so much. And cheap paints can look great on expensive paper, and there are great brushes that you can find for affordable prices. So I really think that paper is the way to invest. Steffi in the Cloud on Instagram asks, which artist or non-artist do you find most inspiring? And I'm really glad that she added non-artist here, because I tried to search my brain for, a nice cultured answer, a list of artists that I look up to and admire. And while I do definitely admire other artists, and there are works that I see that just blow me away and that are just absolutely gorgeous, what inspires me to paint every day is my love for animals and wildlife. I was a zoo educator, as most of you know, for 12 years, and that is absolutely where my heart lies, and they're what makes me want to paint every day. As far as an artist that inspires me, I have to say that I am inspired by the age that we live in that social media makes it so easy for us to connect with other artists. I regularly, daily, am on Instagram looking at other artists' work there, and I don't want to forget anyone or, make a list that doesn't have everyone on it, but if you head on over to my Instagram, you can see everyone I follow, and everyone in that list definitely inspires me to want to paint and share my artwork. Alyssa on Facebook asks, how did you make the background to your panda? Or a broader question, how do you deal with backgrounds in general? So this is actually kind of funny in terms of its timeliness, because I think I just recently mentioned in a video that I really don't like painting detailed backgrounds. And I know that this is an area, I should have answered that for what I think I need to improve upon, aside from drawing backgrounds. Yeah, definitely. I don't like doing backgrounds. I don't get any enjoyment out of them. As I mentioned before, the animals are what inspires me, and I want to be focused on them. And if the background enhances the animal, I'm all for that. But otherwise, I really like to do these colored splash backgrounds, because I feel like they complement the colors in an artistic way for the painting itself, but then they also don't distract too much from the animal in the painting. As far as the red panda goes, your guess is as good as mine. This isn't a painting that I recorded the process of, and honestly, I've tried to recreate it numerous times, and it just was something that I guess I was feeling on the day that I painted it, in terms of where I put which colors. The red panda that you guys have all probably seen is actually the second rendition of that painting. I had done one prior to that was a little bit more chaotic and splashy, and the splashes distracted from the panda, so I wanted to repaint that and have more focus be on the eyes and the face. And so I just tried to find the best balance I could between the colors. I know that sounds really cheesy, but I let the colors kind of guide me to where they wanted to be, where they looked best, and added some minimal splashes around it. And finally, Jennifer Charlie on Facebook asks, what motivated you to start a YouTube channel, and what is your favorite and least favorite thing about it? What motivated me to start a YouTube channel was that I had left my job at the zoo about a year prior to when I started the channel, and I was an educator by trade. And when I first started working with animals, I thought I wanted to be a zookeeper, but I ended up falling in love with the education aspect, because it allowed me to connect and to share with my community things that I was very passionate about. After leaving that job, that was a void that I definitely had, and even though I liked creating artwork and really enjoy that aspect of what I do, it was missing that aspect of being able to connect with other people and to share my knowledge and to network with other people. And so, especially when you're working from home all the time, it can get a little bit lonely, even though Cricut keeps me company the best she can. And that is really what spurred me on to want to do my YouTube channel. My least favorite thing about it is probably that I don't have a very thick skin. I don't have a tough skin, and I take the criticisms really personally. I know that I need to work on that myself and to just let the bad ones kind of bounce off and take all the good ones that happened, but it's human nature to kind of focus on the negative things that are said rather than the positive things. So I'm just trying to remind myself the best I can that there are so many of you who support what I do, and not to let the kind of crazy off-ball, super opinionated, really harshly worded comments dampen my day. So I think that will do it in terms of all these questions that I answered. Thank you so much to everyone who submitted questions, to all of you across every different platform that I have who are supporting me on Etsy, on Patreon, here on YouTube with your comments, likes, subscribes, shares over on social media. I have a brand new Twitter account that I am really having fun connecting with other artists with, but if you want to go ahead and find me on Twitter, I'm able to post there if videos are delayed, like this one got delayed, or other things like that when I'm doing shows. And yeah, I hope to see you around on all the different forums. Don't forget to check out the Etsy shop if you're interested in owning this painting of this mountain lion, or if you'd like to see the full real-time video, you can head on over to Patreon and go ahead and pledge there. I hope that you all enjoyed this video. Let me know if you'd like to see another Q&A in the future, and I will see you all next time.